I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be Epic Virgin Date, Redemption. Well, I've got an email here from a guy who was a virgin until just recently. He's 23, and I answered an email of his a couple months back, and the title of that video was Epic Virgin Date with a question mark. And that particular date, he went out with this girl, made a lot of mistakes. He was trying to have sex for the first time, wasn't successful at it. And shortly thereafter, this particular woman blew him off. So he kept reading the book, applying what I teach. And then on a fourth date with a new woman, he was able to finally seal the deal and lose his virginity. So he wanted me to name this Redemption in honor of his success and the fact that at 23 years old, he's finally lost his virginity. And for those of you guys out there that are stuck in a pussy embargo or you're going through a dry spell, it's also a great email to go through because he contacted this particular woman on Facebook, started a conversation, got her phone number, set a date, and things progressed through to seduction. Now, he still made quite a few mistakes and did a bunch of things and went on dates that I personally would not have recommended that he go on, which is part of the reason why it took 4 dates for him to seduce this woman. But when he finally did have sex with her, she was so wound up and he did such a good job of building the sexual tension that she literally ripped off her own clothes and spread her legs and is basically saying, "Have your way with me." So it's a great success story. Obviously, he's pretty happy about it. I'm happy for him. And I have a quote that I wrote in this talk, and then we're going to go through his email and go through what he details, what he did and said to overcome objections and seduce this woman successfully and have a great experience. He gave her an orgasm first time out, and he was figuring that when he first started having sex with her, he'd probably blow his wad right away because it was his first time. But after 10 minutes, she had an orgasm, so she was very happy and very satisfied. So you can imagine your first time out, you get a woman off, you're going to feel pretty good. Because at the end of the day, the way us guys think is that if a woman is happy, we take credit for that. If a woman is unhappy, we blame ourselves for it. And obviously, if a woman has an orgasm first time out, that's a great ego boost for a guy. So let's go through his quote, and then I will go through his email so we can see his update and his success story. So the quote says, "Men who are used to and who expect to get what they want because they are used to being successful with women take their time and practice infinite patience. They are never in a rush because they know a successful seduction is in the bag and will happen eventually. Therefore, they are able to live in the present moment and enjoy each and every delicious second of seducing and making love to the women they desire. Only inexperienced and unsuccessful men try to rush things because they are fearful and because the kind of women they really want are scarce in their lives. Successful men have too many choices and are forced to be selective and take their time when deciding which woman or women to give the gift of their time to. If you behave in the same ways that men who have an abundance of female choices in their lives do, women will see you as being desirable, sexy, valuable, rare, a catch, and a man who's worth the effort to make you theirs." So let's go through his email. He says, "Hello once again, Corey. This is Bob, the same Bob from the video that you made called Epic Virgin Date." And on the article on my website, I'll have a link where you can actually click through and go watch his original email and see how he bumbled through things the first time with a different woman and how the second time around he was able to seduce her successfully. He says, "I'm proud to say that I'm no longer a virgin thanks to your help." Well, congratulations, dude. I know when I lost my virginity at 21, and it wasn't because I was in love with this particular girl, I just wanted to get my fucking friends off my back so they would stop busting my balls. And it was a good thing for me. I felt better. I felt more confident. It was like, whew. When I look back and review that video, it is almost ridiculous how different my mindset and actions are compared to my latest date. As for your viewers, I appreciate the great feedback they gave in the comments section, and I'm only sending this email because I hope that what I've done will help them find success too. By the way, I never did hear back from that last girl, but that's her loss. Fuck it. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it. That's the attitude you gotta have. Hey, the right women will vote with their feet to be with you. But obviously, you gotta treat him properly. And the first time around, he kind of bumbled his way through it. But, I mean, every guy's gonna go through that. You're gonna learn somehow. Some quicker than others. He says, ironically, my most recent date was somewhat similar to the last date, so it just goes to show how necessary it is to learn the fundamentals. As of now, I've read your book 3 times. Please title this video, Epic Virgin Date Redemption, in my honor. Well, your wish is my command. It was a good title, so it made the cut. It's funny how life works out sometimes. I initially met this Mormon girl a few years ago in a college-level biology class. At the time, I was laser focused on my education, so I never gave her the attention she wanted outside of class. In hindsight, she gave me all the signals that she was totally into me. Those kinds of things used to happen so much, like in my teenage years and my early 20s, and I was absolutely fucking clueless. I had no idea that these particular women I was interacting with, some of them I was friends with, were secretly in love and had a crush on me. And they were giving me all kinds of signs. It just was completely going over my head. And when I look back now, with what I know and all the experiences I've had since then, it leaves me shaking my head because, God, there were so many great fucking opportunities with really great women that I just completely botched and just had no idea. But the good news is, guys like this can get the benefit of that experience, and then at 23, which is what he is, those kinds of experiences, when they happen, he'll see those cues and boom. He won't be looking back going, damn, I could have had that girl and I had no fucking idea. He says, one day I was thinking about all the people I've met in college so far, and she came to mind, so I added her on Facebook. Within hours, she initiated a conversation through the instant messaging application. So what does that tell you? All he did was send her a friend request. And then she started a conversation. So obviously that expresses interest. Now if he just sent a friend request and she accepts it and then doesn't say anything or, hey, how you doing, how you been, what does that tell you about her interest? When women really like you, they help you. And it's obvious this particular woman liked him. And so more than likely, I'm assuming, because of the way he wrote this, he kind of had that epiphany. He was like, oh yeah, there was this girl, and now that he knows, what he's learned from my book, he could tell, wow, this girl was actually into me. Huh, let me send her a friend request. Sure enough, she jumped all over that. Why? Because she really liked him. She wanted to make it easy. We both talked about what had changed in our lives, and she ended the conversation by giving me her phone number, which I forgot I already had on my phone. I'll just give a basic description of the previous date, since the last date is the one that matters the most. Just to give some context, it wasn't until after the second date that I considered her to be more than a friend. Anyway, on the first date, we met for a movie. I mean, there's nothing wrong with becoming friends with women, especially attractive women. You hang out because you never know. Attractive women have attractive friends. And if you're already in with the friend that you know, that gives you social proof. So when she introduces you to all her hot girlfriends, you're already a guy that they should automatically feel safe and comfortable with, as long as you don't act like a fucking douchebag. So it's never a bad thing when you have beautiful women in your life who are your allies, who are your friends, who think highly of you. Because they can be your walking, talking billboards, if you will, for your personal life. And they'll set you up, they'll hook you up with their girlfriends. It's a great thing. And if you're young, you don't have a lot of experience, or you're new to a city and you don't have lots of options, and you go out with maybe some of your hot coworkers, they're going to have hot friends. It's great for your social life. Remember, like attracts like. If you get along with the people that you work with or that you're friends with, more than likely you're going to get along with their friends because you're going to have similar goals, similar values, similar interests. He says, anyway, on the first date, we met for a movie, talked in the parking lot after, and hugged. So I'm looking at that. Number one, if it was a date, I wouldn't be going to a movie. and I wouldn't be hugging this girl. But like he said, on the first date, it seems like, or maybe he's bullshitting us a little bit, but it seems like he was strictly going to go hang out with her as a friend. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if she's got a lot of cute friends that you'd like to get to know. He says, on the second date, I picked her up like a gentleman and took her to an electronic music concert. She paid for her own ticket. That'd be the kind of thing that, well, if it's a friendship thing, then it's like a 50-50 deal. Everybody pays for their own ticket, their own food, that kind of thing. He says, during the concert, we had held hands, grinded, and kissed. So obviously it went from, because keep in mind, this girl obviously was always attracted to him. And so he's hanging out with her. I mean, think about it. If the guy has lots of choices, lots of options, he's not really sure if he'd want to date her or take it from friendship to romance. So he's going to hang out with her outside of where he knew her from in the past, get to know her a little bit. And obviously at some point, if you know what my book teaches, and a woman like this likes you, she's going to start touching you, start bumping into you, start playing with her hair, and you'll be standing there seeing this going, wow, that means she's attracted to me. She's looking at your lips. Well, obviously that means you should go for the kiss. It's easy when you know what to look for and you spot that kind of behavior and you go for the kiss, you're not going to get fucking rejected. He says, for the third date, I once again picked her up and we went out for dinner, bowling, and watched a movie at her house after. I intended to make a move during this date, but everyone was awake and knew I was in the house with her. That's where the logistics of sex come in. Because in order for sex to happen, you got to have some privacy. But if she's got a bunch of roommates at her home, you're going to get cock-blocked by the roommates. So that's something to keep in mind. He says, instead, we cuddled during the movie and exchanged passionate kisses when the evening ended. The next day, she sent me a text asking, what are we? I responded, I'd say we are more than friends. What a great comeback. So, literally, the third date, she's like, what are we? What do you think she's focused on? Relationship? Because she obviously has feelings for him. And you can tell right away, all he did was send her a friend request, and she's like, hey, what's up? How are you? Shows high attraction level right from the get-go. I responded, I'd say we're more than friends, and she was pleased with that vague answer, and I left it at that. In my head, I was thinking, we are seeing each other romantically, so we're not boyfriend and girlfriend yet. That's correct. He says, my plan for the fourth date was to see a movie I knew we both wanted to see very badly. During the middle of the week, I sent her a text asking when she was free that weekend. She told me she was free Saturday, and I proceeded to set a definite date. She agreed by saying, yay! Obviously, she was happy. I thought that a one-word response was not a good sign, but I shortly realized she was testing me. So, think about that for a second. What's he thinking? What's going through his mind? He's expecting her to regurgitate a lot of interest, a lot of excitement to hear from him, and she just says, yay. So he automatically starts to perceive, based upon his old conditioning and program, oh, she probably doesn't like me. Darn it. But instead, she says, yay. Why does it have to be more? In other words, when you get what point I'm trying to make is, when you have unreasonable expectations and you expect things to be a certain way, you can see you can overreact, talk yourself into saying and doing things that are not ideal. He says, seeing the movie was what I felt like doing on that particular weekend, and I was going to go with or without her. Again, I wouldn't be going to movies with because think about it, if you're sitting there watching a movie, you're not talking, you can't interact with one another, and it just gets in the way. Obviously, if you're alone at either your place or her place, that's a different story because seduction can happen there. But when you're in a movie theater and you're only on your third, fourth date, a lot of guys end up cock-blocking themselves when they go to movies like this. It's not something I recommend doing. But I understand this guy's new. He's only read the book 3 times. But you learn. The more you do this, the better you get at it. Movies are the kinds of things you do with your girlfriend or somebody that you've been dating for a while. And you're exclusive at that point. Because you don't want anything to get in the way of the seduction process. And the sooner the seduction happens, the quicker you're going to get closer. Plus, I threw down a lot of cash on our last date. Oh, that's definitely not what I teach in the book. You shouldn't be doing extravagant dates. So I didn't want to spend much this time. The old me would have called her out about the text, but I let it go and got radio silence until I actually showed up for the date. Remember, it's a scientific fact that women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. And that is where, because I see a lot of questions with guys that want clarity on that. And here's just another example of how setting the date, a definite date where you're definitely going to pick her up at her place at a certain time. There's no reason to call or verify that particular date. And that's going to have a positive effect on her attraction level. Now, the first, guys that aren't used to doing that, that can be a little nerve-wracking. But the bottom line is, by the time you actually show up for your date several days later after you've made the date, she's more excited to see you than when she actually made the date. And you didn't do nothing. Less really is more. Because this way, she's thinking about you, she's wondering about you, you're kind of mysterious, you're a little different. She's wondering, what are we, where is this going? All has a positive effect on her attraction level. She was ready to go, as I expected when I picked her up. We held a conversation as usual and really enjoyed the movie. When I took her home, I kept my mouth shut and just assumed she was going to invite me inside when unlocking the door. By shutting up, she naturally broke the silence and invited me inside. Well, in a negotiation, he who speaks first loses. So especially when a woman, like if a woman calls you or she's not sure about going out, or you say, what's your schedule like, and she's not sure, give her radio silence just like that. Because ye who speaks first loses. So you let her speak up and say, well, I can't tonight, but I'd really like, or I can't tomorrow, but I'm free Thursday, or I'm free Friday, or I'm free on Monday, or I'm free on Tuesday. Because if someone gives you an answer and you're like, I don't like that answer, it's just like negotiating. If someone says, well, I'll sell you this car for 20 grand, and you only want to pay 15 for it, and they say, I'll take 20 grand for it, and you're talking on the phone, don't say anything. And sometimes you might sit there for 5 or 6 seconds and they'll go, well, I could take 19 for it. And then they'll just start talking and they don't even realize that they're doing that. Experienced negotiators know better. But it's always better just to leave silence. And he used that effectively here. He says, I'm glad I did not jump the gun by concluding the evening too soon. Once inside, I said, let's watch some TV. Then we sat on the couch and I made a comment about her Nintendo Wii. Thereafter, she suggests that we watch Netflix on it instead, and I agreed but took control of the situation by recommending that we watch Breaking Bad. Both of our thoughts started racing when Mrs. White from Breaking Bad started giving Walter a handjob. How convenient. It's like subliminal messaging there. He says, by some twist of fate, the same exact situation unfolded as my last date story. That is, she placed my hand on her breasts. Release the twins! Women help you when they like you. How easy is that? It's like when I learned, when I started experiencing these kinds of things, it was like, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. Most of the, like I talked to a guy the other day, he's like he'd been out on 35 dates, I think, 35 dates in about a month and a half. And I think it was about 50-60% of them, he ended up making out with these women, and a good portion of them turned their head and he got the cheek. And a big part of his problem, because he's kind of new to this stuff, is he was going out with a lot of women that weren't really interested in him, and he was projecting his interest onto them because he really liked them and wanted it to go somewhere. Remember, attraction is not a choice. This woman takes his hands and puts them on her boobs. So what do you think her interest is? Pretty high. So you could go out with women like this that really want to be with you and make it easy for you, and then you can go and try to do what you see in movies and TV all the time. Try to talk a girl into liking you who's really not into you. Why would you want to do that? That's like trying to swim upstream. They just wear you out. This is a lot easier. It's more fun. This time, I manned the fuck up and I went for it. She went wild and practically ate my face off. I followed your advice and took my time with her. We ended up on the carpet in front of the couch, half dressed. Shortly after, she suggested that we go to her room to have sex. She's making it really easy. So I agreed, and not every woman's going to do this, but obviously she really likes this dude. And maybe she could tell he's really not that experienced, but he's doing more things right than wrong. And plus he's wound her up. This is the 4th date now. So I agreed and followed her there. Her aunt was asleep and visiting at the time, so we had to be extra quiet. I intended to finish undressing her, but before I knew it, she tore her own clothes off. She couldn't wait any longer and spread her legs for me. Ooh, give it to me, big boy. I was tempted to just stick it in. The overeager guy without any experience would do that. But the guy who gets pussy all the time, he's going to take his time. But I took my time once again by kissing, touching all over, fingering her, and then penetrating her. I thought for sure that I would be a quick shot since I was a virgin, but that was not the case. She ended up coming within 10 minutes, and it got so tight that my dick kept slipping out of her. Unfortunately, she got fed up with the slippage and was already satisfied. After that, she put all her clothes back on, and I got a half-assed hand job with the condom off. Some women are very intuitive and know how to play with the joystick, and some women just be thinking, man, that's a complete waste of a perfectly good set of tits. What the fuck? She was so weak that she could not finish me. Instead, I had her kneel before me, and I finished myself off. You gave her the pearl necklace. Nice. I know, lame, but I think things will get better later on. Dude, it was your first time. You got laid. That's a lot better than what my first time was like. I had a buddy of mine was in the bed next to me, and it was just this crappy hotel in Daytona because we were all college students, didn't have a lot of money back then. So we all stayed in a cheap hotel. It was close to the strip. It's one of those experiences that you're like, I don't even remember her name. Anyway, she told me she wanted us to be Facebook official after, but I expressed that I need time to think. She did not push the issue anymore after that. So notice how she wants to be official right after they have sex for the first time. This is after the 4th date. He makes her wait. He's not sure. He has to think about this. Guys who have lots of choices and lots of options are not going to be in a rush. We watched some TV afterwards and called it a night within 30 minutes. I kissed her goodbye and passionately told her, thanks for the good time. The next day, I took a lot of time to think about what we've said and done together. Ultimately, I decided to start my first relationship as an adult with her, so we are now Facebook official. That's pretty quick, but that's what she wanted. And at the end of the day, it's your first experience, but it's her idea to get serious. But at this point, dude, the one thing you got to keep in mind is how much you're pursuing versus how much she's pursuing. Because you're at the point now, you're your 4th date in, you just had sex for the first time. This is usually around the time when women start feeling comfortable enough to start contacting you first. And from that point forward, then you can just kick back, relax, wait to hear from her, and make the next date. He says, Corey, although we may never meet, I would consider you a friend. You have truly touched my life, and I'm so thankful for your help. Looking back at almost every step of the way, I deviated somewhat from your teachings due to my inner weakness and arrogance. So ultimately, I attracted what I feared most with women I've previously dated. And so this is for all the viewers he's addressing directly. He says, what Corey teaches must be followed exactly if you want to be successful. And in this case, I believe I did a pretty good job. We've only read the book 3 times so far. So don't get fucking cocky. Because when you get cocky, pride cometh before the fall, as they say. So he says, granted, using this knowledge won't force every woman to fall head over heels in love with you, but you will reap the benefits of being a 3% man. Unfortunately, some women may use you along the way. The only way that shit's going to happen is if you're not prepared, dude. So only give your time to those who deserve it. Now remember how this woman treated him. Always pursuing, not always doing all the pursuing, but she made the effort from the get-go, which a woman who was not that into him would not have done. Taking his hands, putting them on her boobs, saying, hey, let's go to my room. He says, it took me 23 years on this planet for this one night. Don't blow it by getting greedy and being needy. Just never give up and let life happen, guys. So thanks for the great success story. Congratulations on losing your virginity and ending the pussy embargo in your life, my friend. The world is your oyster, and it's your birthright to be successful like this. All you have to do is treat women properly, and they will make it easy for you. Why? Because they want the same thing. They like sex just as much as you do. And if you notice how he wound her up over 4 dates, he was taking his time because he was still learning. He wasn't really sure of what he was doing. That actually worked to his advantage. Can you see? She tears her clothes off and spreads her legs for him. Takes his hands, puts them on her boobs. She's like, all right, let's fucking get it on. She was ready to go. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions for booking whichever option works best for you. And I will talk to you soon.